Here we go. We'll call the Shakopee City Council meeting for November 7th, 2023 to order. We'll ask our clerk to take the roll.
Councilmember Delaney.
Here.
Councilmember Whiting. Here. Councilmember Contreras.
Here.
Councilmember Lara.
Here.
Mayor Lehman.
Number 2, if we can stand for the pledge. Remind everybody to try to use the microphones as best you can. I know it's hard to remember. Item number 3, special presentation 3A, recognition of 2023 Show Off Shakopee winners.
Winners of the annual Show Off Shakopee contest. This is one of the more fun parts of my job, of course. We hold this contest every year. Submissions are open in the month of September, and the categories change each year. Next year, we're going to be rolling out some pretty exciting changes. We've noticed that it might be helpful for photographers to know what the categories are well in advance so that they can tailor their photography to that category rather than just kind of going through their camera roll, like what might fit here. So we're going to be announcing those in February, and we're going to be coming out with a tip sheet for things the judges look for or that will get you more noticed. So we're hoping that that will draw some excitement.
Are you going to give a teaser on what them categories might be coming up or not?
I do not know what they are yet, to be completely honest.
Okay.
But if you have any ideas, I'm all ears. So.
Okay.
This year's categories were Faces of Shakopee, Lakes and Streams, and Streetscapes. And of course, we also have a grand prize winner. So this year's Faces of Shakopee winner is Jennifer Stamp with Sprinkles of Joy. And as you can see, the guest of honor is with us today.
What is her name?
Lucy.
Lucy. Right here. Lucy.
She's busy. Yeah.
Lucy, you look wonderful in the
What is
picture.
the
in
frog's
here.
name? Did we ever have? We'll have to. What's Lucy? Did we name that frog?
Yeah, we're gonna need to name the frog if Lucy has any ideas. For our next category, we've got Lakes and Streams, and unfortunately our winner could not be here tonight, but here's her photo, Suburban Serenity by Viri de Ruiz. Then we have Streetscapes. Our winner of that is Christine McNamara with Golden Fields of Autumn. Of course, finally, we have our grand prize winner, Roaring Waterfall by Shelley Weeks.
Get it, Roaring Waterfall.
Yeah.
We get it. Very good. Of course, thank you everybody for submitting your photos. The grand prize winning photo will go on the front cover of our welcome brochure for new residents in 2024. And these photos are typically used in all sorts of our promotional materials because they are great photos. So thank you so much for your contribution and for participating.
Did you folks want a picture with all of council?
We can get one with council, yeah. If everybody wants to come up. Can I have somebody hold the other photo? Angelica, she's on it. All right, you guys want to go up with that?
for next year's.
Faces of shock.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Yep, I saw it. Yep, that's right. I was gonna pull it anyway.
Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda from council or staff?
Not from staff, sir.
No.
Wishes of council. Mr. Whiting,
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
is there a second? Motion by Mr. Whiting, seconded by Ms. Contreras. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Item number 5, consent business. Any changes from council or staff?
Sir.
5D1, please, let's pull that.
D1,
D1.
changes? Mr.
5B1?
B as in boy?
Yep.
I'll take 5E1 off. Any other changes from council? Of the council? Mr. Lara,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
is there a second?
Second?
He can have it.
Who's seconding?
I can take
By Angela Contreras, Councilor Contreras. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll now read the items for the consent agenda. Item 5A1 are the city council minutes. 5A2 approves a tobacco license for Van Cambo Incorporated, doing business as Southside Liquor. 5A3 approves a 3.2 on-sale wine and Sunday liquor license for Tokyo 988 Incorporated, doing business as Tokyo Sushi and Grill. 5A4 approves the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce Holiday Fest street closings. 5A5 approves off-sale and Sunday liquor license for JNS Liquors, doing business as Southbridge Liquor. 5A6 approves a 3.2 on-sale wine and Sunday liquor license for Chaska Market LLC, doing business as Los Ranchos Mercado. 5A7 is the 2023-2024 mayoral liaison appointment update. 5A8 is the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Program Grant Award. 5B2 is a resolution authorizing submittal of various grant applications. 5B3 is a donation of interpretive signage from the LMRWD. 5B4 is a no parking zone establishment for Adams Street. 5C1 is surplus property for the fire department. 5E2 is the final plat of Canterbury Southwest 4th Edition. 5E3 is a memorandum of understanding with Jackson Township for a new park and sewer easement that'll be going in their current area where their township is, their town hall is currently located. 5E4 is a change order for soil corrections at Windmill Park.
5F1.
I'm sorry, and 5F1 is also surplus property by the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds and Councilor Contreras.
Sorry.
Any discussion on the motion? We do have a motion and a second to approve the amended consent agenda. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Number 6, recognition of citizens by the city council on an item that is not on our agenda. So if you're here for an item that is not on our agenda, now would be the time to step up to the table here, and more than welcome to talk with us. Buddy? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 7. Business removed from consent will be discussed at this time. First item removed was item 5B1. I had Councilmember Delaney written down.
I just pulled that, I wanted to get this confirmation and also this, to make a statement that condemnation in eminent domain should be a last resort, in my opinion. I'm not sure how the other council members feel, but I do think that should be a last resort. I know this is just, I'm kind of confirmed, this is just a vote to allow that action to proceed if needed, and it's not a vote to proceed. That would come back before council.
Yes, sir, that's very true. It should always be an absolute last result if there's no other way to resolve the issues involved. We do have a presentation that we can talk a little bit more about the details of what we're talking about here so the public understands, but staff and council, I think, I've been here 8 years now. We've authorized the eminent domain process to start, I think, 5 times. We have never, since I've been here, ever actually eminent domain anything. We've always been able to work it out before we move forward.
Mr. Whiting?
And Mr. Reynolds, or maybe staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the process, businesses need this started to be able to get their process started on a financial and legal standing.
With a business, that is certainly correct. Oftentimes, that will trigger something for them to then get their legal team involved, which moves it a little more forward, and then that moves forward. This is actually with a private residence, so it's a little different, but the reality is that, I fully believe and have comfort in that we will come to a solution and resolution before we actually have to move forward with anything.
I too agree that it should be a last resort, and it sounds like we're pretty much on the same page. I'm going to let you do your presentation, city engineer, and then I'm going to follow up to that with some of the questions already asked staff. By all means, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have a short presentation here, and I'd be happy to stand for other questions as well. A little bit of background on the project. This is the proposed roundabout at Eagle Creek Boulevard and Veerling Drive. The project includes construction of a hybrid roundabout, which includes multi-lanes in certain directions and single lanes in others. The project is really designed to provide capacity for the improvements that are going on around Canterbury Park, not only the ones that are taking place right now, but forecasted in the future. The project also includes certain utility system upgrades on the city system. Additionally, SPUC will be relocating overhead utilities underground, which is an improvement in the area, and construction is scheduled for 2024. A little bit about the right-of-way acquisition process. So when we started the project, we didn't know exactly what the project would impact. So the first step we needed to do is go through a preliminary design process to establish what the right-of-way and easement needs were for the project. With that, we made sure that the designs minimize those property impacts. As much as we could avoid properties, we certainly did through that design process. Once the approved design was completed, we identified that we needed easements from 3 properties. Through that process, we provided notice to those property owners, conducted appraisals for their property impacts, which included permanent easement needs, temporary right-of-way impacts, and also affected site improvements, such as trees and landscaping loss and things like that. And then following the appraisal, we submitted offers to those property owners for purchasing the easements. To date, we've agreed with 2 of the property owners on the easement acquisitions, so those have been settled, and negotiations continue with 1 remaining property owner. Now, this is the last remaining property owner that we still need to acquire easements from. Essentially, you can see it's at the southeast corner of Eagle Creek and Veerling Drive. There's a small easement for permanent right-of-way needs on the north side of the property, and then some utility easements and some temporary impacts. I will talk about eminent domain. These are scary words. I agree this is the last resort. However, the Minnesota State Statutes, Chapter 117, establishes the procedures, remedies, and limitations for eminent domain. Essentially, the city can only acquire property through eminent domain for a public use or public purpose, and we have to justify that public need. The statutes also allow the city to take title and possession of the property within 90 days when a notice is served to the property owner and we've deposited the appraisal amount with the court. Now, this is important because it allows construction to continue as we need it to. If we would need to continue negotiations with property owners for an extended period of time, it may delay certain projects. So this 90-day threshold allows us to know exactly when our start date could be for construction so we can program projects and allow them to move forward. During that process, in that 90 days, the city's right-of-way agent can and will continue to negotiate with property owners. This is also important because this step in action that you're taking today is not the end-all to be-all. We will continue to negotiate with the property owner to come to a common goal, and the goal, obviously, is to negotiate a friendly acquisition to avoid that condemnation process. And then if necessary, the city attorney will also assist those property owners so that they can understand what the eminent domain process is and their rights as property owners. So tonight's action or request is simply to authorize the city attorney to initiate that quick take condemnation process, which is that 90-day eminent domain for the last remaining property that has not settled. If this is approved, the city attorney will then file the petition, notify the property owners, and deposit that payment with the court. Again, why are we doing this now? It's November, construction isn't programmed for the summer. This 90-day process allows the city to take title and possession of the property in the spring to allow some of those private utility companies to relocate their facilities outside of the roundabout area so that we can start construction in the summer when our contractor's ready to go. Again, we're purchasing utility easements which will allow gas companies, utility companies, electric to be able to relocate in advance of construction so we can stay on schedule. And then again, I want to point this out that city staff will continue to negotiate with the property owner in an effort to settle outside of court. So the action before you tonight is to adopt Resolution R 2023-129, authorizing condemnation of land for public purposes.
Questions for staff? Did you have a question, Mr. Whiting?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The property 3088 Eagle Creek Boulevard, I'm going back many years now, trying to remember, this was a property, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, does this property have city water and sewer?
They do not. They're on their own private septic and well system.
So this may be a negotiation point in my mind, maybe not legally, we'll have to check with legal, but this would be the time they'd have to connect, I would think.
Not necessarily. We're not extending utilities to the property with construction. This is a transportation project. I do know that
But
city
utilities,
water,
they were on a 5-year time clock 10 years ago, is what I'm saying.
They could have been in
This
it.
would be the time, I think, if we're doing digging there, that they should be compelled to hook up, and this may be a negotiation point, is my point.
Thank you, and I can do some research into what exactly the agreements were at that time for
5
the
years.
thresholds for interconnection. If it's 10 years, we can certainly discuss
Mr.
that with
Reynolds.
the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have multiple properties in the city where
5
city
years.
council has said in 5 years, we'll give you the 5-year. We have never,
This would be an opportunity in my mind.
there are a lot of properties that someday we're going to have to eventually convince them that they need to come on sewer water. There are a bunch of them in the city. You're exactly right, Councilman.
They're digging a hole in
We
front of
gave-
that,
we
they're
gave them-
putting it right there.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, I would caution, I'm not a lawyer by any means, but I would caution to use that one item specifically on one property that we're talking about.
I don't know if it can be
acquiring
used,
property
but-
from for a transportation improvement, just my opinion. You have more questions? Okay.
Thank you.
My questions, if you can go back to the full view of the roundabout, there you go. Have we checked with fire to make sure our trucks will get through that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We actually met with Chief Scott, who's out there, a couple months ago. The first phase of the project will actually be building a bypass lane in the southeast corner of this intersection to allow fire trucks to access to the east the entire time throughout the project. So we've been coordinating with the fire department to ensure there's proper access.
Okay. And then I emailed staff when we received this information, a bunch of questions. And a lot of my questions were centered around the other two properties that we do have agreements for the acquisition of the easements. The square footage, the amount of property, the values, the amenities, these types of things. And it seems to me that, a lot of what we're appraising and offering is more than reasonable based on them other properties. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but just a square footage and the dollar amounts and the uses, whether it's drainage easement or construction easement. There are times when, a property owner might be a little more reluctant to allow the city to make a legitimate purchase for a reasonable price for easements. And sometimes you have to go the route that we're taking to show that you're sincere in what you're doing, I don't like it, but there are those that, I can tell you, an old rusty car might mean a lot to one person and it has no value to somebody else. So a little bit about the trees. I'm looking at what was in our packet of information in the blue area specific, if you want to forward to that screen. There you go. There's a lot of talk of trees, but I can't make out a lot of trees in that blue shaded area. I see a couple and maybe some overhangage from other trees that are set back farther. Do you have a count on that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have a count on the trees. The significant trees were impacted were, I believe, 26 trees that we had counted in the appraisal report. I can get that number for you, but I believe that's the correct number. And our roadway is extending further into their property where it's difficult to see on this aerial, but there are trees that are being removed in that area that extend outside of the easements.
And it's just, I'm assuming that this property has concerns for screening. I don't know if that's to the west or to the north or both. Do we have a plan to mitigate that concern?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as part of our offer for purchasing the easements, we've calculated what the site damages would be for the property. So we've counted up the number of trees that are within the private property. We've determined what a cost for replanting those trees are. We went to a nursery to get their cost for both purchase and install. So as part of our offer, we've included replanting those trees that are removed, that the property owner would then take that money that the city would be purchasing for the easement and doing that work themselves. Certainly that's something that we can continue to work with the property owner on what the value of that screening is. The city conducted our own appraisal. This property owner is conducting their own appraisal as well, and then we can review what the differences are between that and come to a negotiation.
And for a guy with one bad eye, where on this map is the existing city street right-of-way?
Yeah, great question. So everything that's east and west of the colored graphics, basically. So everything that's shaded in blue or teal, that's within their private property. Everything that's outside of that, towards the roadway, is where the city's right-of-way would begin. Does that make sense?
That would make sense.
The dark blue triangle shape.
That'd be cities.
The dark blue triangle shape represents a permanent roadway easement. The teal represents a permanent drainage and utility easement. Now those areas basically are separate easements that are on the property. They're for different uses, but everything within that shaded area is what's the city is currently recommending to purchase.
I guess what would have really helped for the future would have this graphic overlaid the existing roadway that's there.
Yeah, and that's what this tries to show with the aerial and the proposed geometry of the roadway with the colors. It gets a little muddled through there, but I can certainly prepare any graphics that you'd like to see.
The light blue is roughly,
The light blue is 10 feet in width.
so we're talking about a 10-foot strip that's right up against the current road?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right.
Or current road right-of-way, sorry. So essentially the sidewalk would be within that right-of-way section, then beyond that.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Delaney?
Yeah, currently there's like a dirt driveway there. Where would that be changed? Is that going back to the same spot, or is that being moved, relocated outside of the roundabout?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The driveway, is that being moved or relocated?
Yeah, great question, and I'll show it on this graphic here. So you can see the area that's shaded green and red at the east side of the property along Eagle Creek Boulevard, which is the area that I'm highlighting with my mouse here. That's the location of the existing driveway today, and the city is essentially just constructing the driveway to match the new roadway in its same location.
I could say, you know, a lot of street improvements that they make end up you driving past your driveway for a mile and then making your turnaround and coming back, where here it's close by a roundabout, so it's not as bad as it could be for many other locations. Any other questions of staff? Delaney?
The other property, is that a new driveway also at the top? Kind of,
The red driveway?
yeah.
Mayor and Council, that's a really good question. So the red is essentially a new driveway for the parcel that's across the street. And reason being is because the existing driveway where it comes out to Eagle Creek Boulevard would align directly with the pedestrian crossing, if you see the crosswalk blocks along the roadway. So obviously putting the driveway back in that location is not as desirable. And if you can recall what Veerling looks like, you're going uphill as you approach the fire department. So this actually helps the grade to reduce the actual steepness of the property owner's driveway. So this was a solution that we were able to work with the property owner as a common goal to make their property a little bit more desirable, to reduce that driveway slope, but also get their driveway outside of the roundabout from a safety perspective. Yes?
Last question related to the fire department. With this going in and with the expected additional traffic coming out of Canterbury as it grows and develops, is there a need for any kind of warning for fire coming out anytime as a fire alarm goes off, you need to pull the trucks out and go?
Certainly we can talk with the fire department about that. We do put fire station signs at all legs of the intersection alerting drivers that there could be fire trucks in the area. We haven't talked about or programmed flashing lights or anything if fire trucks are coming out. And Chief Scott could certainly address that if need be.
Thank you.
And the speeds are so slow in the roundabout that if they can't see a great big giant red truck making all kinds of noise with lights flashing, be driving.
Well, with that said, I will make a motion to adopt Resolution R2023-129, approving the acquisition of right-of-way and authorizing the initiation of potential quick-take condemnation for Eagle Creek Boulevard and Veerling Drive intersection improvements, CIF-20-014.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Motion is made by Councilor Lara and seconded by Councilor Delaney. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, as staff indicated, we will be doing everything possible to get this negotiated, but I want to make sure, I heard a comment about this would come back to the council. This does authorize the eminent domain proceeding, so there wouldn't be a reason to come back to the council for a second action. I just wanted to make you aware of that because I heard that comment.
And Mayor and staff, or Mayor and Council, if this does go through the condemnation process, we will ensure that we're bringing that information before the council. Whether there's an action or not, we will keep you informed and apprised of the status of the negotiations.
Acceptable, Mr. Delaney? You seconded the motion. Do you gonna? So you need to decide if you're good with that or if you want to withdraw your second of the motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
All right, so we have a
Second that.
motion by Councilor Lara. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Contreras. With the understanding that staff is going to keep us updated on where the negotiations are. And I believe, and this is coming off memory, we were like 39,600 or something like that, which was above all the other properties. So I'm not sure what the sticking point is, but I guess we'll find out. All right, any other discussion on the motion? Discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. Mr. Delaney. Motion passes. Mr. Delaney in a dissent. Does that take me to?
D1.
Yep. Item D1 was removed from consent by Councilor Whiting. Mr. Whiting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one of those opportunities we get to talk about something, so Mr. Tobin, please.
Mayor and Council, I'm really happy to bring this forward. We have the opportunity to improve the quality of services at the ice arena, celebrate a great business in our community, and celebrate the history of our community. So today we have from Valley Sports, we have Andy and Tony Jansen, who run Valley Sports. Andy's grandfather is actually the father of hockey here in Shakopee. So Bibel Novakovic started the first partnership with recreation program here in Shakopee to start recreational hockey down at Huber Park when we had an outdoor rink there. He was also part of the establishment of the first hockey association in the community in March of 1970. And so as part of celebrating his history, Valley Sports is donating a television that will be displayed in the lobby and be used by our patrons there. We're also going to do a real nice plaque honoring him as the father of hockey, and we're going to display 2 beautiful articles that talk about the history that he has with hockey here in Shakopee. The Jansen family is here with us this evening, and as I said, this is Andy Jansen's grandfather, Bibo Novakovic, that we're celebrating with this donation.
First of all, thank you for the donation. It's a great opportunity to share the father of hockey with the rest of people in Shakopee at the community center, and the big screen TVs. Great to look at too. So, with that, I'd love to read the proclamation. So, first, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution R 2023 TAC 0132, accepting the donation of a television from Valley Sports to the ice arena, honoring the founder of Shakopee hockey, Chuck Bibo Novakovic, or Novakovic? Novakovic, okay, Novakovic, all right, thank you.
I will second that.
All right,
You want to read that now, Mr.?
yeah, I would read that if it's approved. What we're looking to move forward is Resolution R 2023 TAC 132, the resolution from the City of Shakopee, acceptance of donation from Valley Sports of Shakopee. Whereas on November 6, 2002, the City Council adopted Resolution number 5794, which established procedure relating to the receipt of gifts and donations of the city. Whereas Resolution 5794 specifies that donations of real property shall be accepted by resolution of the City Council and shall require a 2/3 majority of the City Council to accept it. Whereas Valley Sports of Shakopee is generously donating a big screen television valued at approximately $1,000 to honor the father of Shakopee hockey, Chuck Bibo Novakovic. Whereas this donation will be valued by and beneficial to patrons of Shakopee Ice Arena. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Shakopee, Minnesota, that the donation is gratefully accepted, and further, the city staff is directed to send a letter to the donor acknowledging receipt to the gift and expressing appreciation of the City Council. Adopted in regular session, City Council of the City of Shakopee, Minnesota, held the 7th day of November 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Whiting.
Thank you.
Comments? It wasn't 68. It was more like 78 for me. But I played hockey on that same ice rink down on Huber Park, and there was a road about as wide as a vehicle that the city would flood between the hockey rink and we called it the figure skating rink, the regular rink, with the warming house on it. And there was many a day and night that I would skate from the ice rink over to the warming house on that ice road with the rocks sticking up through it, and that you would hit and go flying, and you'd land and slide right onto the other ice and get up and go and have your candy bar and your pop in the warming house. So a lot of good memories in Huber Park. Thank you for your donation. Mr. Lara.
I just wanted to send a thank you to the Jansens for all their contributions to the city with themselves and their business.
Bought many a puck from Valley Sports down there that we lost in the snowbanks and a couple in the river, maybe. Anybody else?
I'd also like to say thank you for your...
Valley
Thank you.
Sports too, by the way. Nice curve, you know. Anything else, Mr. Tobin?
No, sir.
We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 5E1 was removed by myself. And the reason I took this off is I just want to make sure that we're all aware of the situation this puts us in. So we basically have before us, right at our cap of what this council agreed to would be the budget on this project. And, you know, what do we have? 3 or 4 different meetings trying to negotiate amongst ourselves how to pay for it from multiple different funding sources. 1 minute, Mr. Kursky. And I guess my concern now is that, okay, so if we adopt this, we're right at our cap for our budget. If a change order comes in, we're going to go above our budget. If that happens, if a change order does come in, you know, we could find ourselves in a situation where you got a project that's half-built, and if you don't want to approve a change order, you've got a half-built structure that's not moving forward. And approving it, you're going over budget without identifying a funding source. So I was trying to ask the question, which other council members may have saw with my conversation with staff, is there contingency in each one of these bidding items? I mean, we all know that when we bid a project, there's a, you know, a 10 or 15% contingency in there for whatever unforeseen things, and unforeseen things do happen. We see it with soil borings at the park that we pass on the agenda here. So that is my concern, and I don't want to see council be put in a position to where we move this forward thinking that, geez, we're gonna do this. We're less than $100,000 under our budget, and you have something come forward, and now, you know, let's say it's a $400,000 change order, and you don't have the funding source identified, and if you don't approve it, the project stops, and now you have a really mad citizenry. So, you know, we really shouldn't be put in that position. We should almost, you know, have that built into it. I was hoping that this would come back at like 6.5, and there would be some leeway in case there was unforeseens, but that's not the case. So, you know, I know Councilor Whiting doesn't like change orders, but, you know, you're going to be put in a position that you're not going to be able to say no to them. Otherwise, you're going to have a half-built project that's just stuck. Mr. Kursky.
So, Mayor and Council, there's approximately $150,000 in contingency built into the $7 million number. And I expressed this to the city manager today. This has been a very frustrating project because we've spent literally years on it and have been chasing prices. So we have, I think, a good path forward. RJM is our construction manager. We've had many discussions, one of which was today, that depending on the weather, one of the other savings we may have, depending on the weather, if the weather turns bad, we will not, built into those numbers is a winter condition. We will likely not do that because that's one of the areas that could eat up rapidly the contingencies that are already built into their numbers. So the pool will move forward. They are prepared, I think, unless it gets ridiculously cold, to move forward. On the building, we're going to get the footings and foundations in, and if we have a turn in the weather, the contractors agreed that they will wait until the spring to finish the building. So that's the biggest risk in this project is cold weather, because if we were to get into the actual construction of the walls and it got extremely cold, we would have to tent the whole building and heat it, and that would be on our dime, and I don't think we're ready to do that.
So did you say 170,000?
$150,000.
50. So that's
So they put in
1.5%. Is that right?
To put it in perspective, so when we do a construction manager as agent, they have worked with every one of these subs down to the nitty-gritty to make sure there's no big surprises. When we did River City Center, that was a $3 million budget, of which we had $100,000 in contingency. I think we ended up spending about $50,000 in that contingency, and that project dragged on because of the issues we ran into the building. And when you have a construction manager's agent, it's their job to make sure those change orders don't get crazy. I mean, they're the city's agent on site and working for the city. So there's no benefit to them to have change orders financially.
Well, I just wanted to share my point of view with council and see what their tolerance is.
If you're asking for an opinion, I think this project is on its way. I think we need to keep moving it forward and trust that staff and our construction manager is going to manage those contingencies, knowing that it is tight. And then we start looking for opportunities to find partners and help us in the end to finish it if we have to. But this will get done. So with that, I would make a motion to approve the updated award of bid pack number 2 and award the contract as listed for listed as, for bid pack number 3. Is that how that should be read? Is that okay, Mr. Thompson? Excuse me?
I think he has it right.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sounds funny, but
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Whiting, a second by Ms. Contreras. Any discussion on the motion? Is the construction manager here?
Yes, he is, Mayor.
Can I have a couple of questions?
Had a full head of hair before this project.
Yeah, right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brad Barrickman with RJM Construction.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Were you involved in the multiple meetings that the council had where we were pretty adamant about staying on budget?
Yes, I was.
Okay. How confident are you that there's going to be less than 1% overrun on a $7 million project?
I've never worked on a project that doesn't have change orders. So just to be clear that change orders are part of construction projects. We've been working with the design team and staff to fully understand the scope. RJM Construction was responsible for drafting the scope of work based on the design documents. We do have allowances built into the subcontracts that we've presented here to you tonight beyond that $150,000 for different things that we absolutely know will occur on the project. What we have not accounted for is any kind of deviation from the actual scope as currently designed. So to give you a level of confidence that there won't be change orders, that's difficult for me to do. But I would say we've accounted for everything that we expect on this type of project.
Mr. Lara?
Well, I guess my question, I mean, have we secured materials? I mean, we have pictures of what the, like stone and facade is gonna be. Are those purchased?
No, those materials have not been purchased. We're waiting for the authorization to award contracts here tonight.
Would they be purchased after that?
Correct.
So, because I guess, I mean, my only thing that I can think about that could affect pricing is labor. You know, if we're waiting until spring and you gotta find a new labor pool to construct, because we're already locking in materials, that's my only thought is where we could see a change. If anyone else has an idea where they could possibly see it.
Well, I think that the issue, you know, they probably built into the cost estimates for that acquisition of material. I think the issue is going to be unforeseen things,
Right.
if there are any.
Right.
We don't know if there is. We don't know if there's not.
contractor's bid.
You know. Now, another question that I had, and I'm trying to, what's the name? We have some kind of engineer. What do you call it, Mr. Reynolds? Cost something engineering or something? Is that what it's called? Cost engineering or something like that?
Value engineering, yeah.
And it talks in here about having the opportunity to lower cost as things are happening. And I'm trying to wonder in my own mind how that happens. So if you have a bidder that's approved for X amount of dollars for this type of work, can you realistically go back and say, we decided we're not going to do these parts of that job, therefore reducing your bid amount?
So Mayor, a good example is Axel Olmenson, right? Yes. Axel Olmenson is the masonry contractor on this. So the original project that was approved was, let's make my head hurt, concrete block with insulation and siding. So we went back to them and said, that number came in way out of what their estimate was, what everyone's estimate was. That seems excessive. Give us a better solution. The better solution is a polished concrete block that has a stone face on it that's insulated. So they went back, recalculated, came back with a new number that said, from a value engineering standpoint, here's what our cost increased, but here was your cost decrease. There are a lot of items on there that are quote items, so they're under the statutory limit. As we get further in the project on the quote items, they have the capacity to be able to say, is there something same quality but a better price that you can get based on your quote? So that's, we have value engineered out of this project right now about $2.3 million to date.
And we're going to continue doing that through this process?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of Mr. Lara?
Another question, do we insure our projects in terms, like my thought is, if something happens, let's say a contractor tips over a pallet and damages product materials, or something happens where something gets damaged, is that covered somewhere that you're not coming back to us asking us to repurchase that?
Mayor and council, all of the contractors that submit bids and ultimately we award contracts to, they're required to provide a performance and payment bond for the performance of the work, as well as general liability insurance policy. So each of the contractors working on the project has a general liability insurance policy. We also have a builder's risk insurance policy, so if anything is damaged on the new construction, the builder's risk policy would kick in to pick up any of those damages.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
I'm good.
Anything? Last question. How thorough was the preliminary work? You know, I'm thinking coring samples, these types of things that happen before projects to make sure you don't have these big surprises. How thorough do you think this project has been to prevent them surprises?
We started in 2019, I looked today, so.
Careful how you answer this. It could look really bad.
So it's been a very painful, long process.
Right.
Put it that way. And so I think similar to what we did on River City Center, we had change orders to the city's good during that project where we got on the site and the architect wanted to do it one way and we said to the contractor, is there a cheaper and better way to do it? And they would be like, yeah, so they did. So we actually have negative change orders on that project. A good example, the lights on the building. The architect specified a light that we bid out that the general contractor for the electrical came back and said, we can get that same fixture from a different brand for half the cost. So we said, that's what we'll be doing. There are other items on this project. The masonry is a really good example. We said to the architect, we know you would like, rose-colored glasses on this, but it's not happening. We want a material that will be long-lasting, low maintenance, and it's going to be super durable. And so working with RJM and the architects, we dialed down what their request was. So we'll be doing that throughout the project. And the benefit is we have on staff a landscape architect now with 30 years experience doing really big projects that is attending all the meetings and also providing additional input.
Anything else from council? Motion and a second, correct? Correct. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Item number 8, we are moving to public hearings. 8A is an assessment hearing on delinquent police, fire, false alarms, and mowing services. Motion, Mr. Whiting?
Make a motion to open a public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Whiting, seconded by Mr. Delaney to open a public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are now on a public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So tonight we have a public hearing on unpaid bills for city services, which is, this year includes 1 false police alarm and then 2 lawn mowing charges. Total amount of the charges is $901. I have provided a listing to council, which includes all the payments we've received up through today. This is a process we go through once a year to certify these unpaid charges under the property owner's property taxes as allowed by Minnesota statute 429. Oops, I'm sorry, that's this slide here. So following approval of the delinquent offenses, $25 administrative service charge will be added to each of these accounts. The admin charge covers the costs of associated with our time assessing these delinquent accounts. Property owners will have until December 7th to pay the assessment interest-free. Following that, the assessment will bear an interest rate of 6%. We will provide a second letter notifying the property owners of these assessments. And then following tonight's public hearing, staff will be recommending certifying these assessments for these delinquent bills. So the remaining actions tonight would be to accept public input, motion to close the public hearing, and then council consideration of resolution 2023-122. And then also staff has not received any written objections.
Any questions of staff? Questions of staff? One question. The false alarms, you're allowed how many before you start getting billed for them in a residential?
So per our ordinance or policy, it's 2 a year, so it's your third one. Your third false alarm is when you would be charged, and that's based on a calendar year.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Okay, anybody here in the audience would like to address the council on this public hearing matter? Anybody? And last call, third time's a charm, right? Seeing nobody, wishes of council?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion by Lara and second by Contreras to close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Wishes of council. Mrs. Contreras.
Make a motion for the consideration of Resolution R 2023-122, certifying assessment for delinquent fire, police, false alarms, and mowing bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Councilor Contreras, second by Councilor Whiting. Discussion on the motion. Anybody? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. Item B is a continuing public hearing. This was a public hearing in our last meeting that we continued, so we'll be opening a public, would we be opening a public hearing that was continued?
We could just open the continued public hearing.
Councilor Contreras?
Make a motion to continue or open to continue the public hearing.
Open,
Oh,
open the continued.
open the
Continue.
continue.
Open the
Open.
continued public hearing.
Open the continued public hearing.
Any motion is made by Councilor Contreras, seconded by Councilor Whiting, and any discussion on the motion? We good from a legal standpoint?
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is open. Assessment hearing on delinquent garbage refuge bills for Dick Sanitation.
Yep, so tonight we have a public hearing continued from the October 17th for delinquent refuse bills. As mentioned on that 17th, it was discovered that letters to some of the property owners contained wrong amounts, and the notice of public hearing would not have met the appropriate time requirements. Letters have been sent out to the property owners with the amended amounts with the new public hearing date of tonight. Staff is asking council to open the public hearing, which you've done, or continue the public hearing. Allow for any anybody interested the opportunity to speak. And then, if needed, I can provide a staff report that I presented at the last council meeting. The updated list is 95 accounts, so it is down from the 129 accounts that was at the last meeting.
Say that again in a microphone, please.
Oh, excuse me. So our updated list, which is provided to council, it has 95 accounts, so it is down from when we met the last time.
And that's, the updated list is what we have?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Questions of staff? Questions of staff? All right. Anybody here in the audience that would like to address the city council on this public hearing matter for delinquent garbage bills? Now would be the time to step forward. Anybody? And third call is the charm. Seeing none. Wishes of council.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Whiting, second by Ms. Contreras. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Wishes of council.
The motion we adopt resolution R 2023-121, certifying assessment for delinquent bills.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Delaney, seconded by Councilor Contreras. Do we have to specify garbage bills in that, or does the resolution do that for us?
Resolution does that.
Very good, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8C, 2023 full depth pavement reconstruction assessment hearing. This is also a public hearing. Motion to open a public hearing would be in order.
I make a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Delaney, seconded by Mr. Lara. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is open.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the assessment hearing for the 2023 full-depth pavement reconstruction project. The project included 3 locations throughout the city of Shakopee, along Valley Fair Drive and Park Drive, and Atwood Street in downtown Shakopee, and then the Dominion Hills neighborhood along Dominion Avenue, Levitts Woods Lane, Maple Trail, Wood Duck Trail, and Wolf Ridge Avenue. The full-depth pavement reconstruction project essentially includes grinding the existing asphalt with the underlying aggregate and replacing the pavement surface entirely. Consistent with the city's assessment policy, those projects fall in line with projects that can be specially assessed for the improvements. This project timeline, you've seen this project several times, starting back in January of 2023. When you received the feasibility report for the project, you held the first public hearing and ordered the improvements in February. We then awarded a contract to Bituminous Roadways in April. They then constructed the project throughout the summer, and that project is now completed. In October, we declared the costs and set the public hearing for tonight, and then today we are considering adoption of those assessments. Here's some project pictures in the 3 different project areas. You can see on the left side is the existing before the project, and the right side is after construction. That's in Valley Fair. This is on Atwood Street. You can see the significant changes that we made in downtown. We narrowed the roadway and provided additional buffers between the sidewalks and roadways. And then this is in the Dominion Hills neighborhood where we replaced that asphalt surface. Project costs on the left side in the middle of the screen, you can see the estimated cost based on the project award, and on the right side is after the construction, and the costs are tabulated and determined. All the costs from the total project for construction through design have gone down from when the estimates were prepared at the contract award, including the assessments and the city funding sources. Based on the estimate, the actual assessment costs are $488,564.23. A little bit more on the city's special assessment policy relating to street improvements. For this project, assessments were based on the actual cost of the street improvements for each neighborhood. Street improvement costs are assessed 30%, so essentially the city is paying 70% of that project, and 30% of the costs are assessed to the benefiting property owners. For the Valley Fair area, those properties were assessed on a cost per acre basis, and that's because those are business properties consistent with the city's special assessment policy. On Atwood Street, those properties were previously assessed in 1998 for street improvements along 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue. They're essentially double fronting streets where they front multiple locations. So those properties were not assessed for the improvements because they carried the full assessment amount for those adjacent streets. Along Dominion Hills in the Maple Trail Estates neighborhood, those properties are assessed on a per lot basis. Essentially every property within that area got the same assessment amount because those are calculated on a per lot basis. If you're a corner lot, we make adjustments for those assessments that you're paying half of the assessment. So essentially if you were assessed previously half for a side street, if you're fronting 2 different streets, you get a half assessment this time. This is just a map of the areas. On the left side, you can see the green parcels that were assessed for the Valley Fair or Valley Park Drive improvements. On the right is Atwood Street. You can see that the double fronting lots again on 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue that they received the assessments for those previous projects. And then this is the Dominion Hills neighborhoods. The parcels in red are the ones that front the streets that were reconstructed as part of this project. The proposed assessment rates for the areas, you can see in the center is the feasibility report. These are the numbers that were previously brought forth towards you. For Valley Fair Park Drive, the assessments were estimated at $854.84 per acre. After construction, those costs are now tabulated as $528.90 per acre. For the Dominion Hills neighborhood, the feasibility report calculated as $14,747 per lot, and the actual costs are now $12,065.71 per lot. So as we progressed with the design, we were able to hone in on those costs and calculate them and ensure that we had estimated appropriately and we were within budgets. The proposed payback period for all of these assessments is 10 years, and the proposed interest rate is 5.75%. This is an example of the amortization schedule. Essentially, this tells you what you'd be paying each year on your taxes over the 10-year period. These are just examples for certain parcels that you can see. If you're a property owner, this is what you would get in the mail from us to tell you what exactly your paybacks would be if they were to be certified on your taxes. Property owners can contact the city at any time to discuss what those payment options are, and if they prepay some of the assessments, we can recalculate what that amortization schedule is. So payment options for assessments. Property owners can pay in full or partial payments with no interest by December 7th. To the Finance Department at Shakopee City Hall. We actually have our notices all ready to go. They'll be in the mail tomorrow if the assessments are adopted, detailing the process for payments to those property owners and what their assessment amounts are. Following that, the assessments would then be certified to the county property taxes, again, paid over that 10-year period, subject to taxes payable in 2024 at the 5.75% interest rate. Then at any time, property owners can pay off the remaining special assessment amount during that 10-year repayment period, with the caveat that you need to pay off the full amount of the assessment. The only option to prepay is within this first 30 days after the assessments are adopted. Recommendation to City Council is to adopt Resolution R 2023-125, adopting assessments for the 2023 full-depth pavement reconstruction project, SIF-23001. Again, property owners wishing to preserve their right to appeal their assessments to district court must file the written objection to the assessments prior to the closing of the public hearing. To date, city staff has not received any objections to the assessments. We've received 2 calls from property owners essentially asking for payment options and what the payment procedure is. We were able to answer those questions, and again, we'll be sending out notices to property owners.
Questions of staff? Mr. Delaney?
What's the interest rate based on? Is that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So essentially, the city's bonding rate at the time of the project or borrowing cost is 3.75%. Our special assessment policy then adds 2% to cover administrative costs, and that's how we establish that 5.75% interest rate. Cool, and Mr. Reinhardt can add any details if I missed anything.
Mr. Whiting?
I'm not seeing the assessment roll for the Atwood project in my packet. Was that,
Well, the reason why there's no assessment roll is those properties were not included in the assessments because they were previously assessed for those other projects, so there is no assessment roll for those 4 properties.
okay, that's where you got that. Okay,
Correct.
that's
Assessment last time around.
It's a good question.
Lots, yeah.
My question, if you could put the map up of Dominion Hills, Maple Estates area. There you go. All right, so it's gonna be really hard to do this, but if I look at, do you want the PID number or do you want the little number below it?
It's a
Different frontages.
Let me grab my computer. If you have the number.
Yeah, let's look at the intersection of Maple Trail and Wood Duck Trail. Okay. That intersection, you have 2 houses that have the dot on them for a half, one side easement. That would be
Correct.
right. Okay, but then if you go down to straight down Maple Trail, or even the 2 straight across the street.
Yeah, so if you would have an aerial, you'd see that that street no longer exists.
Okay.
Because Shakopee, Minnewacan, and Sioux community owns the adjacent parcel to the west. There used to be a road stub planning for future development. Once they bought that property, we actually removed that roadway because no street access would be required.
Which roadway is that?
That would be the extension of Peace Avenue.
So Peace Avenue is not there?
That's correct.
Okay, so therefore they're not a corner lot.
Correct.
That answered my question, thank you.
It's a good question. I should
Caught
have highlighted that.
Any other questions?
No.
Good catch.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address council on this public hearing item? Yeah, please, yes. Before you start, go ahead and have a seat, be comfortable. You're more than welcome to be here, we're happy to have you. Speak it, pull that microphone right up to you. Just grab it and pull it
First, I'm
toward
going
you.
to say I'm hard of hearing.
Pull a microphone up to you, please.
Extremely serious hearing loss, so I'll have some trouble hearing you. But I own property at 2630 Maple Trail, which there was a dead end that was supposed to be filled in with pavement, and instead they filled it in with grass. We were never notified of that. I don't mind it at all, but since I got a corner lot that's $12,000, I'm wondering if that was kind of taken into an account for the amount that I'm being charged.
Are these the addresses below them?
Yes, those are the addresses, and this is the property on the north side of that street that we were just talking about, Mayor and Council. So that street that used to have a dead-end roadway was no longer removed, so her property is no longer a corner lot, which is why you have that full assessment amount. And I'm sorry, if you can't hear me, I can come closer and talk to you.
I can hear you good.
Okay.
These guys
Yep.
can't hear so well.
It's okay.
2630,
2630.
thank you. So it's this one right here.
Yeah, so if you can see my mouse, that's highlighting this parcel right here.
So that road is no longer there, and your concern was where that road used to be? They didn't fill in the end of it?
That I'm going to be charged for what was, everybody else is being charged for is pavement, and I didn't get pavement. We got grass.
But you got payment on Maple Trail, correct?
My house is on Maple Trail, and it's Wolf Creek.
Yes, Wolf Ridge Avenue was the street that used to be on the south side of your property, which is now grass essentially because that roadway was removed. So her question is, should she still get assessed for the corner lot compared to the full assessment amount? And the reason why it was calculated this way is because we didn't charge for repaving Wolf Ridge Avenue. If we would have left the roadway the way it was and reconstructed it, then you would have only gotten assessed for that corner lot essentially because you would have had to pay for either both streets. So if we would have reconstructed both, you would have got a corner lot on one street and a corner lot on the other street, which would have been one full assessment. So you still got the full assessment because you were benefited by the one street in front of you. So whether that roadway was rebuilt or not, you would have gotten charged the same assessment amount.
Where is Wolf Creek?
It's the end, the piece that no longer exists because it goes in Midwalker. Right here? Yeah.
Okay. It's the end of
The
Peace Avenue?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
And that's no longer there.
And since that road is no longer there, who has control over that parcel, where the road used to be?
It's still road right-of-way. We have not vacated that at this point, so the city owns the right-of-way.
And Metawakanton own what?
They own the parcel to the west where that street is stubbed into.
Okay.
Which is that white parcel just to the west of the dead end.
So until we know what they're doing in the parcel next to the west, they might be doing something in the future we don't know. The Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux community. So it's hard to make an improvement there if somebody's going to come tear it up right away.
Okay.
Got two different entities side by side right there. And we don't know what this one's going to do there. So we don't want to do anything that's going to get undone. I'm sorry I'm not speaking in here.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Can you say it one more time?
My understanding is the parcel to the west of you is owned by the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux community.
Okay.
If they want to stub anything through their property to where you're talking about that grass is where the road stops, the road used to be, any improvements we make there today could be changed very soon by somebody else that owns the property right next to you.
But she won't be charged more.
That's the point of distinction. If a road was ever built in that area, she would not be assessed for it because
Right.
she's getting 100% assessed for the frontage street that she is on.
Right.
She's covered.
Right.
Correct. Okay. And
I'd be happy to talk with you outside after this as well if you, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
One last question. So if there's no development on the other side that would require a road, does that property?
We don't know that.
We don't, well, I mean,
Microphone.
if there's no development on the other side that does require a road, does that go back to the owners? Do we vacate that back to them, or how does that?
So, thank you, Mayor and Council. That would take a city council action to vacate that right-of-way. In the event that council did want to vacate the right-of-way, half of that right-of-way would go to the north property, and half of that right-of-way would go to the south property. Certainly, we could do that. Leaving the right-of-way in place preserves the right if we ever needed a roadway.
I think vacating it would be premature because we don't know what the Metawakanton plans for the parcels next door yet.
And thank you, Mayor and Council. And I would add that this was in coordination with the SMSC. They told us they didn't need a roadway for access, which is why we removed it. So it reduces our maintenance cost and our construction cost to have to rebuild a road for no reason.
But it's awful hard to come back later and have them change their mind and say, gee, we'd like to do a joint project with you to put a road here on our side and your road continue over here. Let's partner on this. And well, now we'd have to go back and buy the properties.
Meantime, it's nice in the lawn for folks, and we'll just leave it as it is.
You'll never notice that it's city right of way because it'll just be grass. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions on that topic? No. Anybody else here that would like to address the city council on this public hearing matter? Anybody else? Seeing none, wishes of council?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Whiting, seconded by Councilor Lara. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Wishes of the council.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R2023-125, adopting assessments for the 2023 full depth pavement reconstruction project, SIF 23-001.
Seconded by Mr. Whiting. Motion was made by Mr. Lara. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And the last public hearing is item 8D. Mara Street, 13th Avenue, Hansen Avenue, Utility Extension Project Assessment Hearing. Motion to open a public hearing would be in order.
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing.
Second to the motion?
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Contreras, seconded by Councilor Lara. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is open.
Mayor and Council, this is my last special assessment hearing for tonight. This project is the utility extension project along Maris Avenue, 13th Avenue, and Hansen Avenue. Now, the name is somewhat confusing. It's a utility extension project. I'm sure you've heard of this project before. We extended sanitary, sewer, and water main to the businesses along this area. A lot of these properties had failing septic systems. This allowed us to be able to mitigate some of those concerns and provide utility extensions. However, with that project, we did reconstruct the streets above where the utilities are. So this special assessment hearing is only for the street improvements, not the utility improvements. If you can recall previously, the council did approve ordinances and resolutions establishing what the utility charges would be for connection to those utilities. So tonight, I did want to make the distinction. We are only talking about the street improvements for the special assessments. So this project, again, was along 13th Avenue between Stagecoach Road and the city of Shakopee eastern limits, along Maris Street between Hansen Avenue and 13th Avenue, and along Hansen Avenue between Stagecoach Road and Maris Street. Project timeline, this project is over 2 years in the making. The City Council received the feasibility report back in 2021. We held the first public hearing and ordered the improvements in April of 2021. Northwest Asphalt was awarded the contract in the spring of 2022. Street and utility construction took about 2 years to completely finish up and get the lift station online, which completed in September of this year. Last month, the council declared the cost and set the public hearing, and here we are today for the special assessment hearing to consider adoption of the special assessments. Here's project photos. Again, on the left is before construction, and on the right is after construction is completed. This first picture is along Maris Street. Second is along 13th Avenue, and lastly along Hansen Avenue. Project costs calculated between estimate when the contract was awarded compared to actual and final costs. As you can see, costs did go down for not only the city costs, but also the special assessment costs, showing we were in line with budget, and those assessments did come down from when the feasibility report was adopted to when the estimates were completed with the contract award, and then actual after construction was completed. Again, City of Shakopee Special Assessment Policy, this is a little bit different than the project that we just talked about. So the project areas, again, assessed based on the actual cost of the street improvements, and those were determined on a cost per acre basis. Street improvements, again, were calculated at 30%, so the city pays for 70% of the street improvements. The remaining project is assessed at 30% to property owners. This project was unique because a new sidewalk was installed along Hansen Avenue and Mare Street, providing pedestrian connectivity where there was none that existed. City policy allows those sidewalk improvements to be assessed 100% to benefiting property owners, so the city doesn't pay for those improvements. They're assessed to the property owners, and that's consistent with our city policy. And then when we calculate what the developable acreage is for a property, we do exclude certain areas. So that area is calculated less the areas of outlots, which are for future development or undeveloped areas, city right-of-way, lakes, wetlands, easements accompanying the 100-year high water levels of stormwater basins, and conservation easements and parks. So the city staff actually went and did research on where those areas were and excluded those from the calculations for the assessable area for those properties. This is a map of the assessments. We have two different types of assessments, and I'll get into those in a little bit. The light yellow color are those that are assessed for 13th Avenue, and the orange parcels are those that are assessed for the street improvements along Mare Street and Hansen Avenue. And this is the distinction as the assessments along 13th Avenue. Their assessment charge is $8,072.34 per developable acreage, and the properties within the Mare Street and Hansen Avenue assessments are $9,761.42 per developable acreage. And the difference is because those properties along Mare Street and Hansen Avenue benefit from the sidewalk improvements that weren't constructed along 13th Avenue. The proposed payback period is 10 years, consistent with the previous assessment. However, the interest rate is 4.5%, and the reason why the interest rates are different because we started this project in 2021 and we locked in the interest rates when they were favorable back in 2021, so the property owners actually get less of an interest rate because that was the interest rates where the city borrowed those funds for construction. This is an example of amortization schedule, again, for 13th Avenue and Maris and Hansen Avenue. These are going to be completely different for all the properties because they have different acreages compared to the previous project where they were on a lot assessment, where they all had similar assessments. So this is, again, an example of the breakdown for how, if you were to assess it along that 10-year period, what your payments would be each year. Again, payment options, these are the exact same as the previous project. Property owners have the option to pay in full or partial by December 7th with no interest. Otherwise, we'll be certifying the assessments to be paid on the property taxes starting in 2024 over a 10-year period at 4.5%. And then again, property owners can pay off the remaining balance of the assessment at any time in that 10-year repayment period. So the recommendation to City Council tonight is to adopt Resolution R 2023-126, adopting assessments for the utility extension, Maris Street, 13th Avenue, and Hansen Avenue project, Sewer-21-001. Again, property owners wishing to preserve the right to appeal their assessment must file the written objection prior to the close of the public hearing. City staff has received one objection from a representative who is representing 4 properties within the property area. You have a copy of that appeal letter. Our city attorney has been in touch with the representative from Larkin Hoffman. They agreed to move forward with the adoption of the assessments tonight and then discuss options with staff beyond the adoption. City Attorney Thompson can certainly fill in on the discussions. Outside of that, essentially the property owner, they contested the benefit to the property for the value of the assessment that's being proposed on their property tonight.
Any questions of staff? No. I'm going to put one out there for you. This map, if you can get that up. And by all means, correct me when I'm wrong, but when I look at some of these parcels that don't have any frontage directly to these roads, I can tell like the bottom 2 on the right, they're actually the same use going through 2 parcels, right? And same with up above it where you've got the 13th Avenue assessment on a strip and then a bunch of smaller ones to the right. I'm assuming that they've got access over to that road through them, smaller parcels or some kind of an agreement somehow to have that access. Is that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Both really good questions. So I'll start with the property on the south side, on the right side of the screen. This property would be non-conforming had it not have access to city right-of-way, which is this L-shaped property that's adjacent to it. So this property only has street access via Maris Street and Hansen Avenue. So it receives a benefit of the public improvements even though it doesn't have direct driveway access to it, and it's a separate parcel from the adjacent parcel that has a similar use. You could almost view the two parcels as one property when you
Right.
talk about the value of the assessments, in which you'd combine the acreages, because they both receive benefit of the right-of-way. Now, the properties in the northeast corner, we did have this discussion regarding the benefit of the assessments. They basically share a kind of existing gravel driveway. Now, the difference between here is because they're included in the 13th Avenue assessments, the city would not assess them for future improvements to what that gravel road is, because they're already getting a benefit and being assessed for the public improvements along 13th Avenue. So that is the distinction. They do get benefit from 13th Avenue because this private roadway, while it provides access, 13th Avenue still provides them the public street access.
Okay. Anything else to staff? Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come forward and speak on this matter, now would be the time. Please, come on up, have a seat. You're more than welcome. You want to give us your name and pull that microphone up to you, please?
Yes, Ivana Estrada. I live on 9081 13th Avenue, by the gravel road into that section. We have a septic system, so why would we benefit? The only thing we'll benefit is just the road there, the frontage road going in, going out.
If you could speak closer to that microphone.
We have
you
septic
can move that
system.
microphone.
Oh, we have a septic system.
Yep.
So how would we benefit from the sewer connection? You know?
This is the road portion of 13th Avenue.
Right.
Former council did pass a special fee schedule, I guess you would say, for hookup to the sewer and the water when you have a well or a sewer septic system failing.
We have a well, yeah.
If you have one that's failing, then you would hook up into them services that are now available. And that new policy for just exclusively for this area would kick in for the fees associated with that. Do I have that correct, staff?
Yes, and the distinction is we did not extend utilities along that private driveway south of 13th Avenue. So again, the distinction was these are assessments tied to the street improvements and not the utility improvements.
But on the utility side, if the utility is available, which they were in 13th Avenue, weren't they?
Yep.
Then them properties on 13th Avenue would have a fee structure that was specifically crafted by staff and council, adopted it for them properties to hook up when their systems needed to.
So then we will have to pay once we're to the connection?
Where exactly is your property located?
It's like in front of the
What's the number of the property?
9081. I don't know.
9081?
81 13th Avenue, yes. It's across from
These
the
only have parcel numbers.
908.
the salvage area. It's right across.
So you're at the bottom of the gravel road?
Yeah, well, there's an empty lot there, and then we're a little bit above on the empty lot.
Last numbers are 070.
Empty lot in front of us, and then we're up.
So the empty lot in front of you is on the corner of 13th Avenue and the private drive or the gravel road.
Yeah, it's like the borderline from Savage.
We didn't extend water down that private drive.
Yeah, we.
No, it would be available to that first property on the corner from
okay.
13th Avenue. So, I mean, hypothetically, if your septic system's failed and you wanted to have a new septic system built, there's a cost to do that.
Right.
So you would just apply that money that you would pay for a new septic system to run in a sewer line, and then you don't have to worry about a septic system again.
This is just the road.
Right, but she would actually have to be able to run up to this way.
Yeah, we haven't run any water down here.
Right,
So.
it's up here.
But this assessment hearing is just about the road.
Yep. But today we're only assessing the road improvement on
That's
13th Avenue,
Okay.
the blacktop stuff.
And that's going to affect us anyway, paying that portion.
The road.
The part that you use that road, correct?
Okay.
And I can follow up with you to discuss options for utility connections, yeah.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak to council on this matter, this public hearing matter? Please step forward. Anybody? Seeing none, Mr. Whiting,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Whiting, seconded by Counselor Delaney. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Mr. Whiting.
Make a motion to adopt resolution R 2023 TAC 126, adopting assessments for the Morass Street and 13th Avenue and Hansen Avenue Utility Extension Project Sewer 21 TAC 001.
Is there a second? Mr. Laney, motion by Mr. Whiting. It's kind of deceiving. It's Mara Street, and it says utility extension project sewer, but this portion is the road.
They put the road over the sewer.
Yeah. Okay, any questions, Mr.
A
Lara?
question, has our city attorney reviewed this? Is there any concern over the letter that was left on our spots?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, yes, I reviewed it. I talked to the attorney this afternoon. I told them we were planning on adopting the assessment tonight. They preserve their right to appeal, but they have to do that within 30 days. So that gives us some opportunity to discuss this with them between now and then. In his letter and in our conversation, he didn't give us any specific information of why he thought the assessment was too high. So I asked him to look into that, and we've also had an appraisal done on this one. So he didn't know that at the time, and a lot of times these assessments get adopted without an appraisal. So more to come, but right now he hasn't provided any specific information as to why we would reduce this assessment. If he does that, and we talk to staff, and we can come back with you with a recommendation if we believe there should be some change made. If no change is made, they have a right to file their assessment appeal in court. They have to do it within 30 days, and we go from there.
So if they, let's say they appeal it and then things change, does it get who absorbs that cost? Does it get reassessed to all the rest of the properties, or do we eat that, or?
Nate might know a little bit better than that, but typically it gets financed through other sources if the assessment happened to get reduced.
Yeah, but I would assume it would come out of city funds, so you wouldn't reassess it.
Right.
Probably the capital.
But the cost-benefit analysis.
Correct. Go ahead.
The cost-benefit analysis was done on this process, and we assume that the improvement gave that much value back to the property with the improvement, gained that
Right.
much. So that's our assumption.
Yeah, because I mean, if they're stating that the improvements made aren't benefiting them now, I mean, you have to look at it as a property standpoint and not necessarily what they're using it for now. Look further down the road, if they sell and then they're not there anymore, it's going to benefit the new property owners. So, I don't know, that's my thought.
Exactly.
Well, there's actually a couple of different questions here that you're raising, and it's kind of convoluted because you have you have the road, you have the sidewalk, you have the sewer and water in some areas, and when you lump them all together, it may not seem like a benefit if they're not using some of them services that are now available, but that falls under a whole technical different fee structure and policy that the council and staff adopted for that specific portion of it. But the blacktop and sidewalk portion is a separate function, and you're hard pressed to not receive a benefit of a sidewalk that's placed in front of you for you to use. Likewise with a road. I mean, unless you're not driving on the road, if you don't have access to the road and you don't use that road, there is no benefit to you. But that's not the case in this particular.
It's an old argument, yeah.
Yep.
This particular area is very closed, and there's only a couple roads that actually service it, and it are the roads that we actually.
Well, and I mean, if we wanted to get real technical, I can tell you that your average car weighs 4,500 pounds. The average vehicles from these properties are more in the 70, 80,000 pounds, which do a lot more wear and tear on a road than the average car does. So it depends who's looking at it from what aspects.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. No other discussion? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 9, motion to recess for Economic Authority meeting.
Make a motion to recess for the Economic Development Authority meeting.
I can second that.
Motion by Councilor Delaney, seconded by Councilor Whiting. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're in recess. Did I say adjourn again?
No, you said it.
No, I said recess.
All right.
I'm calling to order the Shakopee Economic Development Authority meeting for November 7, 2023. Staff, if you could please take roll for us. Thank you. Number 2, approval of our agenda. Commissioner Lehman.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Delaney. Thank you so much. Any discussion on that? Any questions? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, we have consent business, and on that consent, we have our EDA minutes. Does anyone have any questions on that? No, we don't need to make a motion on that one, right? Or we do? Yes.
Madam President, I'll move the consent business.
Thank you. We have a motion on that. A second.
Second.
Second. Thank you. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A motion passes. Number 4, general business. We have the modification of the business subsidy policy, which we visited last time we were here. And we did ask staff to do some research for us, updating wages and making it reasonable for someone to, wages that would be reasonable for someone to rent a 1-bedroom apartment. Mr. Kursky.
Madam President and board members, so just go back a little history. So we started this program back in 2012 when it was $14 an hour. Most recent modification was in 2020, where we raised it from from 2019 from $20 an hour to 2020 to $24 an hour. Proposing staff recommends tonight a proposal to $28 an hour average overall, exclusive of benefits and including the senior management positions. As we discussed last time, those are currently excluded, and I ran some calculations. If you include them, it probably adds anywhere from 15 cents to 25 cents to that hourly wage gross based on the size of the company. The way I got to $28 an hour, inflation, if you look, was 1.4% in 2020, 7% in 2021. 2022, it was 6.5%, and this year it's running currently projected to be 3.7%. And then if you remember last time we discussed the median earnings in Shakopee for everyone that works in Shakopee is $60,687. The proposal tonight would put the wage at just below the median at $58,240. So median, if you remember, 50% of the people earn less than that, 50% of the people earn more than that. So based on some of the discussion we had last time, the average 1-bedroom apartment in Shakopee today is $1,425 a month. The new wage allows one person to meet that rent payment and still requires benefits like health care, sick time, etc.
Thank you, sir.
So we're basically raising it $4 an hour.
Yep. Thank you. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, great. I think it's in line with what we were wanting to do. I think if a company's going to come to the city asking for a subsidy, that this kind of helps benefit the workers that are going to work at that company.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You know, I had concerns with the, we had excluded senior management, now we're including senior management back in. To me, that becomes sort of hokey math. You could pretty much say, all right, well, now you're a manager, now you're on salary or wherever you're at. It just gets too gray for me when we include senior management.
Too gray when we include, okay.
Wasn't it your idea to include management?
I thought, I wanted to make sure they were excluded.
Excluded.
Okay.
And
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Kursky, was senior management excluded prior to tonight? I mean, currently?
Madam President and board members, yes. So what we would do is take the top wage. So a good example was Sam's Club. They had a person at $186,000 a year. We removed that $186,000 a year job out of their wages. And if you look at that, the impact is, it's not as large as you would think. So 124 employees, I think they were projecting. It had about an 18-cent an hour difference by pulling that job out.
So what would happen if we, Madam President, what would happen if we excluded senior management positions, which is the current policy?
We're happy to take whatever direction you
Would that work?
suggest.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. I just, I would like to see a little more definition around senior management. I mean, again, I'm trying to keep it from being a gray area and changing titles, and I don't know how we do that unless it would be, you know, it varies. It's just so different between company and company, and that's the problem.
So Madam President and board members, currently what we do is we get a list of all the positions, and anyone who basically runs the company is excluded. So on Cherney, we took off, they have a site general director there. That person's salary was removed. Again, on Sam's Club, it was the facility director, which was probably $70,000 or $80,000 more than anybody else made at that position. We removed that job.
And this is only one job they're taking off. I mean, there could be more.
Lehman.
Madam President, I would suggest that we just remove the excluding senior management positions. And I would like to remind all of us, staff correct me, but our policy is on a case-by-case, meaning that the EDA as a body at any time, any proposal that comes forward will have the opportunity, if they have that desire, to really shake out what positions and so on and so forth. So,
Yep, these are just the guardrails.
yep.
So, just to understand the proposal tonight, keep it at 28 an hour average overall, continue to exclude?
Yes.
Yep. He took it off.
If I can add, you know, we could also, on a case-by-case basis, like you said, and that's when Mr. Kursky brings us the proposal.
Okay.
And these are the details. We're taking this position off the top.
Okay.
We can direct it, put it in, we can direct it taken out, we can direct that the middle guys come out, and only the bottom ones are concerned, we can, it's on a case-by-case.
But a company coming to Shakopee knows this is the threshold.
Right.
At a minimum, the guardrail threshold will be $28 an hour for their bulk of their, worker, blue-collar worker or whatever, workforce, and senior management will be excluded.
Got it. So is that
Madam
Good
Chair, I made the change already.
there? Okay. So then we,
So,
Two letters.
so then do we pass the motion by reading that? How would you guys like to? Go ahead.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the modifications as discussed tonight. The business subsidy policy.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, but just to clarify the motion, if it's okay with the motion maker, that
Yes, go ahead.
that we're adopting what was in our council memo, item 4A, with one exception, changing to exclude senior management positions.
Thank you. I accept that.
There we go. So we have a motion and we have a second. Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, what do we have? So we're on number 5 now, reports. We have the EDA bill list. Any questions on that? Seeing none. Number 6, we are adjourned to Tuesday. Somebody like to make a motion, actually? Yes, sir.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, someone? Anyone?
Second, or without objection?
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Well, we are done. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll reconvene the Shakopee City Council, and we left off on item number 11, general business. Item number 12, reports. 12A, city bill list. questions on the bill list?
None for me.
B, liaison and administrative reports. Which side did we start last time, Vice Mayor Whiting?
Down here this week. Okay.
Any?
All right, liaison reports. At Spec meeting yesterday, a question came up, and I brought it over here. Louisville Township annexation agreement, is there one planned? If not, when?
Good question.
Is that something
Has that been discussed? I don't even know.
I can, well, I can say in the last 22 years, the city has approached the Louisville Township. They were less receptive of that idea. I'm not sure that their position has changed as of lately.
I would suggest their position has not changed, and I would not expect it would change in the future.
Right. I wouldn't say never because you just never know. But that's where it is.
Now, that doesn't stop adjacent landowners under state law petitioning to come in. But as far as an orderly annexation agreement, we do not have one with Louisville Township.
And I think currently, if I may, that would be under Minnesota Valley Electric's contract. I know they negotiate back and forth for service territory at different times, but that's the threshold, their service territory.
But and I'm not the legal guy here, but I don't think the lack of an annexation agreement for the property portions stops the utility providers from having negotiations on power areas.
Right.
But Shakopee Public Utilities has the right to the electrical service in Shakopee.
Correct.
So if it's annexed in.
Well, once it's Shakopee, then yeah.
Yeah.
They have by right, but they can certainly negotiate,
Gotta negotiate.
without it being in the city limits.
Correct.
All right. The other one was the water tower by Canterbury will be painted, and I think they're working with the city graphic designer. I thought that was pretty cool or neat that at least that's being planned. It would be designed 2024 and then finally painted out 2025. I think that's.
Yeah, and if I could just touch a little bit of that, Mr. Drent and I had a conversation. Shakopee Public Utilities came up with just an incredible idea as they were looking at, that particular tank at Canterbury is an iconic piece of the area. And Mr. Drent basically said, we were thinking, why don't we do just something special with this? And even to the effect of, we know that Canterbury is there, the amphitheater is going to be there, and we have Valley Fair there. Why not have the SPU logo, the city logo, and the logo of those big entertainment venues? And I said I thought it was an excellent idea, and that we would certainly look and work with the utility and do what we could to assist them on that. So I was very happy once again with Shakopee Public Utilities and them coming forward with innovative ideas on how to support the organization and communities together.
Geez, and I was thinking.
Are we talking a fee here?
I was thinking.
No, absolutely not.
I was thinking something unique, like, I don't know, zip line or something,
Yes.
Tied to the top of the water tower, yeah.
No attraction.
It's an entertainment district. It's an entertainment district, right?
Cool. Also, 150 lights. If you've seen the purple lights in the area you drive by, those are getting replaced. They're identified 150 more, so those will disappear here shortly. They were under warranty, and they're getting replaced as time permits and the lights come in.
It's not a Prince thing.
Also, they are collecting Christmas gifts for seniors and for Toys for Tots. So if you are over there dropping your bills off or something, they have a container in the lobby. And that's my SPUC report. 169 Coalition, nothing new or exciting there. We hadn't had a meeting since our last meeting, which has been a while. We have 2 meetings coming up this month. One is 9 November and 14 November, so should have more information after that.
One of them is a membership luncheon in Plymouth that
Yes.
all of the members are invited to.
Yep, that is the
So-
14th. And then the 9 November one, that is this,
Has council got that invitation?
so the 14, I
The,
don't know.
the full member meeting in Plymouth, I believe it is?
Yep, that is up in Plymouth. I don't know if they sent the invitation out to all the council.
Yeah, I don't know if, you should find out, because
I'll check that,
the one that I saw said it was for all members. So I'd be curious if that means all member cities. I'm not gonna make it, but if other council members, if they allow it. So find out if they allow it, and if they do, then get it to the rest of the council members.
I will follow up on it. Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, two other things happening coming up. Community School Sister of Notre Dame. They're doing a Celebrate and Connect activity over at Benedictine and 14 November from 4 to 6. So if you get a chance, stop by and say hello to the sisters over there. And I did get a chance to participate in the City Cleanup Day, which was 21 October. That was a lot of fun. It actually went fairly quick. It was over, or at least the lines went down fairly quick. So
They got it down.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Whiting?
Oh, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about MVTA. We had our regular monthly meeting on October 25th. In that discussion, and I should share this with staff, and it isn't in the actual agenda, but the Transportation Policy Committee broke down the added sales tax for transportation and transit. And I don't know if the Met Council was showing their cards here a little too much, but the estimated value from 2025 to 2050 is over $17.8 billion from that sales tax. So they're unnormally transparent here. So there's some numbers here that I'm going to share with staff, because that's a lot of money they're going to be rolling in here.
Well, they want to build a rail up to Duluth, so that's going to cost a couple of bucks.
Yeah, so also MVTA has been awarded the Most Transformative Sustainability Plan Award at the 2023 American Public Transit Association Transform Conference. That award is part of the Federal Transit Administration's Sustainable Transit for a Healthy Planet Challenge, and the agency's 2023 sustainability plan was chosen among 222 participating agencies. So congratulations to MVTA. Also want to point out, you can take the bus to the Gopher games and Viking games. MVTA does provide those transit and opportunities. And don't forget the Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks tour. I tried to get them to call that it was the piano van, but they didn't go for that one. But it's the MVTA tour, so you can take the bus to the concerts too. So check that out, and also check out the Ride MVTA app. Great opportunity to see where your bus is, and many, many other things. So that's my report. Ridership report did show ridership is up. It's not back up to pre-COVID levels, but it's on the rise, so that's a good sign.
I heard somewhere it's almost back up to where it was.
Yeah, there's some doubt you can keep that.
Mr. Contreras?
Thank you, Mayor. Mine's super quick. I just attended on November the 3rd to the SCALE Executive Committee meeting. And that one, we're just continuing to work on the 2024 legislative priorities. The Innovation Hub was on there, our big ask. But they did have some questions, and I did forward them to our staff, and they are working with their people to just make sure they know exactly our wants and our needs, and if there's an amount we're asking for. So, but that's it, pretty much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lara.
All right. Shakopee Public Schools had their joint meeting with Scott County, and they came up with a collaborative plan that is to promote healthy child development and family resiliency by aligning resources and community partnerships directed at prevention and early intervention. So that means they're focusing on truancy and early childhood development. And I have the plan here if anyone cares to review it, but that's what they discussed.
Truancy, that's a good one. Brings back some memories.
I got stories.
Go give them some pointers.
I got you beat.
Mean that if you're a truant that you will grow up and become mayor of Shakopee. So there are exceptions.
Don't follow these examples.
Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
All right, I don't have a report for tonight. So, item number 13, any other business? Anybody? None? Item number 14.
Motion to adjourn to Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilor Lara, seconded by Councilor Delaney. Any discussion on the motion? long agenda, considering we're under 2 hours.
I was gonna ask if this was a Mayor Lehman budget cut.
No.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
pretty good job tonight on the meeting for both council and staff. It was a long agenda with a lot of stuff on it, and we made pretty good time, so I'm pretty impressed. Nice job. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.